HBO's Inside the NFL. The Packers handed the Bucs their first defeat of the season, winning the Battle of the Bays. Troy Aikman joins us to talk about Dallas's big game coming up with the Washington Redskins. Jimmy Johnson talks to us about his quarterback situation and the state of the Dolphins. And we look back at Oakland Raiders great Ray Guy, one of the best punters of all time. And now, the show the pros watch, Inside the NFL, with your hosts, Len Dawson, Nick Panicatti, Chris Collinsworth, and Jerry Glanville.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's show. I am looking around, and I do believe I see a smile on Nick Buoniconti's face. Yes. Have I ever mentioned that he was part of that 1972 Dolphins team that went undefeated?
I know that.
Yes, and now there's only
times.
one undefeated team left. He only has to worry about the Denver Broncos.
And just the Denver Broncos. They look pretty good the other night.
They look good without Elway looking
good. That's right. Terrell Davis on pace for 2,000, and John Elway didn't even play well. Looks like, Nick, it's been a great run. But
you guys always think you know everything except one thing. You didn't look at the schedule. Denver has to go to Kansas City. They have to go to Pittsburgh. They have to go to San Francisco. And I have to go to refrigerator because I'm getting my champagne ready.
They have to do all those things? Well, we have to talk about the Denver Broncos because next week we are taking our show on the road and talk to the folks in Denver, Colorado, finding out if indeed they are going to go undefeated. You know, they're having a lot of success in Denver. I think a big reason is that their quarterback, John Elway, has a very good relationship with his head football coach, Mike Shanahan. But, Chris, all teams cannot make that statement.
That's right. And quarterbacks can get a head coach in trouble from time to time as well. You look at the situation right now in Chicago. Dave Wanstead, a guy I think we all agree can certainly coach. But his job now in jeopardy because of a personnel move that he made this offseason. Gave up a #1 draft pick, a high #1 for Rick Mirer. And now, because of Rick Meyer's failure, he's the #3 quarterback. Dave Wanstead's job may be in jeopardy.
You know, New York Giants totally different, Chris. The head coach does not make the player personnel decisions. The general manager does, George Young. He made a decision. Dave Brown is my quarterback. I drafted him in the first round. I'm getting rid of Phil Simms. Jeff Hostetler, Ken Graham. Dan Reed's the head coach, but I'm bringing in Jim Faso to personally coach Dave Brown. Guess what? That experiment is failing because they're last in the NFL in offense.
You know, Jim Faso caught a break, though, in the fact that he didn't have to bench Dave Brown. The injury took care of that. Now Danny Cannell's going to get a shot.
Well, sometimes the head coach needs to get lucky. And you look over at Seattle. There's Coach Erickson. He's going to get fired. John Freeze, he's not playing real good. Not having the year they want him to have. In comes Warren Moon after the injury. He saves the head coach's job. And one thing about Warren Moon, he saved a lot of head coaches' jobs, including mine.
Well, let's continue with this quarterback controversy. How about the 0-5 Colts? Jim Harbaugh got hurt, had to leave the ball game. Paul Justin went in, did a good job.
Right.
Harbaugh all of a sudden got healed. He says, I can go back in, but his head coach, Infante, says, nah, why don't you just stay here on the sideline with me? So could be problems in Indianapolis. We start our highlights with a can't-miss package. The beauty of Lambeau Field, the allure of two good teams, and the artistry of NFL films.
He takes a licking and keeps on kicking. Trust me on this.
Ah, the die-hard Packer fan.
We got to get him to the game. We got to get him to the game. Thank you very much for your time. Have a nice day. And the Packers are going to kick butt.
They've been known to take season tickets to the grave, and they never give up on their football team, especially when an undefeated upstart comes to town harboring ill will toward their struggling world champions.
Bring it high. Turn the intensity up from the first play. From the first, let the intensity level right here. Win on 3. 1, 2, 3.
The early intensity was playoff caliber. defensive end Gabe Wilkins used his best Lambeau leap on Bucks quarterback Trent Dilfer, so we can excuse his lame attempt in the end zone.
Here's Brett, back to pass, got some time, looks, comes over the middle, Freeman caught it, 10, 5, touchdown!
Suddenly, this game had the makings of a Lambeau lynching as Brett Favre and Antonio Freeman carved up double coverage.
21-3 is the score. The Buccaneers are in a deep hole at Green Bay. That hurts going in.
But in the second half, Tampa Bay showed why they'd arrived at Lambeau undefeated.
Eye right, see left, 12 fullback.
Get nasty!
From the one, handoff, all style hurdles, touchdown, Tampa Bay.
Way to get nasty! Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Thank you.
Keep the pressure on them. We'll get in the line of scrimmage before they're ready. Keep the pressure on them and keep pounding their ass. Let's go.
Here's the handoff to Dunn. Dunn pops the left side, cuts it back to the right. Dunn to the 15, he's to the 20, 25-30, Dunn to the 35-40, 45-50. Warwick Dunn to the Green Bay Packer 46-yard line.
Execution!
Execution and heart, the formula for Tampa Bay's turnaround, and the reasons this determined young team nearly caught the Packers from behind.
Dilfer takes a step, hands off to Dunn. Dunn hurdles to the one. Did he get a touchdown? Tampa Bay.
2 points! 2 points! 2 points!
But the two-point attempt that would have pulled the Bucks to within 3 fluttered harmlessly to the turf. And the Packers had their 22nd straight win at Lambeau Field.
Right, Dave, that's what it's all about. You guys too. We'll see you down there.
It ain't pretty, but a win's a win. Tampa Bay's a good football team, so are we. It ain't pretty, but we just keep finding a way. We got to do that all year. It's going to be that type of year.
With the Sears Tower as a backdrop, Chicago fans came to see the softer side of Mike Ditka in last Sunday's primetime matchup. But both teams consist of not ready for primetime players, and a dreary 3-3 halftime score helped Iron Mike regain his hard edge. In the third quarter, Mario Bates ripped a 49-yard run to give New Orleans a 10-3 lead.
It's a foot race with Mangum, and it's going to be won by Mario Bates for the touchdown. A touchdown run by Mario Bates.
New Orleans punted 9 times and failed to convert any of their 12 third down opportunities. Yet they managed to erase a 17-13 deficit late in the fourth quarter when Heath Schuler threw. Mike Ditka watched. And Randall Hill caught an 89-yard touchdown pass, the longest in Saints history.
And Randall the Thrill Hill provides his first as a New Orleans Saint.
An emotional Mike Ditka savored the win over his former team. And the game confirmed that Iron Mike is still a beloved Chicago figure and will always be regarded as a saint in the eyes of the Bears faithful. Ricky Watters was fighting mad after carrying only 13 times in a Week 5 loss to Minnesota. So the Eagles abandoned their stick-and-move game plan for one that delivered a knockout punch.
To Waters, it goes up, but in for the touchdown. Ricky Waters, airborne.
The Redskins were forced to play catch-up all day, and this acrobatic 38-yard catch by Michael Westbrook was simply a glancing blow. On this day, the Eagles and Irving Fryer countered every Redskin jab with a haymaker of their own. But this game belonged to Waters, who carried 31 times for 104 yards and left the Redskins flat on the canvas. The Eagles Broncos have won 15 of their last 16 in games in which they ran more than they passed and will need Ricky's running to remain a contender. A Sandman wearing number 8 was an inviting target for Giant fans, but the Giant players were also determined that it wouldn't be a day at the beach for the Cowboys' number 8. Giant safety Tito Wooten didn't let Troy Aikman's third quarter pass slip through his hands as he returned it 61 yards for a 13-9 lead.
Running across midfield, on the 40, to the 30, to the 20, to the 10, 5, touchdown Tito Wooten, and the Giants take the lead, no flag.
Down by 11 in the fourth quarter, Aikman refused to bury his head in the sand and found Anthony Miller in the end zone to make the score 20-17. With no timeouts left, Dallas got the ball back and drove downfield as tight end Eric Bjornsson rumbled to the 18-yard line with 10 seconds remaining.
10 seconds, 9. Cowboys are going to have to hurry.
The Cowboys ran upfield as the clock ran down, but right tackle Eric Williams, number 79, never made it back to the line of scrimmage.
4 seconds, 3, 2, 1, zeros.
The Cowboys did not get set.
No, they did not.
When the ball was
Eric
set,
Williams wasn't set.
With their gutsy 20-17 victory, the Giants kicked sand in the face of the NFC East's biggest bully.
Eric Williams could not get set on that final play, and the Giants escaped with the win, raising a few more questions about this Dallas Cowboys team. Joining us this week on NFL Crosstalk is Cowboys quarterback Troy Aikman. And Troy, first of all, what happened to Eric Williams on that play? Why was he so far behind?
Well, I don't have an answer for that, Chris, unfortunately. I'm not sure exactly what happened. I know that he was banged up a little bit earlier in the fourth quarter, wasn't moving quite as well as what he normally does. I have not seen the tape, so I don't know exactly what took place or if he lost sight of the fact that that was going to be the last play and we needed to spike the ball.
You know, this Cowboys team is the only team in the NFL right now without a rushing touchdown, which, when you consider what the Cowboys have done running the football over the past couple of years, seems almost incredible. What's going on?
Well, we haven't run the ball as effectively as what we have in the past, obviously, and that holds true when you look at the fact that, like you mentioned, we have not scored a rushing touchdown yet this year. I think it's important to point out that we have only had 2 goal line plays in 5 games. We have not even gotten down in there close to the goal line to run Emmett, where over the past several years is where he got most of his touchdowns. We have had a lot of opportunities inside the red zone, 20-yard line and in. We have just failed to get down any closer than that and give ourselves an opportunity for a legitimate chance of rushing the football in for a touchdown.
As you look at the Redskin defense, they're last in rushing defense. Do you think this could be a week that Emmitt Smith breaks out and looks like the Emmitt Smith of old?
Well, I think it's going to have to be, Jerry, in order for us to have any kind of success offensively. This is not a defensive football team to where if we're unable to run the football or if we get behind in the ball game that we're going to be able to sit back there and just throw passes against these guys. They're number 1 in the NFL against the pass. They have struggled against the running games of some of these teams, and the teams that have had success against their defense are the teams that have run the football effectively, and that's something that there's no question that we're going to have to do if we want to win this game.
What do you see when you see Chris Dishman at one corner and Darrell Green at the other cornerback?
Well, I think Chris Dishman was the missing link for their secondary, and he's an excellent corner, along with Darrell Green, who's been there a long time and is an outstanding player himself. They've got 2 outstanding safeties. They take chances. They're both experienced guys on the corners. They've seen a lot of different routes over the course of their careers. They don't get fooled very often. They play very aggressively, come up and press receivers. They give their defense an edge just like our corners give our defense an edge. And so for us to be effective, we've got to be awfully sharp in the pass routes, and then I've got to be careful where I'm throwing the football.
The last owner, head coach in the National Football League was Papa Bear Hollis. Do you think Jerry Jones wants to be the next Papa Bear?
Oh, I think there's a little bit of Jerry that thinks he's Papa Bear right now, but you know, I know one thing. I don't worry about those type of comments or when Jerry comes out and says that he has given some thought to maybe being the head coach of this football team. I don't think that would happen, but I do know that the decisions that Jerry makes are decisions that he feels are in the best interest of this football team, and so I know whatever decisions are made, it's going to be for the betterment of the club.
Troy, would you have to give up your coaching salary if Jerry took over the ball club?
I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that one, Chris.
Hey, Troy, we appreciate you being with us, and good luck this week.
Thank you very much.
Lenny, you know as well as I do, all the quarterbacks in this league are assistant coaches.
Yes, they're assistant coaches during the week, but then on game day, they become the head coach. Well, the head coach, Troy Aikman, and the Cowboys traveling to the new Jack Kent Cooke Stadium to take on the Redskins. The Redskins this year in their new stadium, they're 2-0, and they defeated the Cowboys 3 of the last 4 times, Nick. But what about this time around?
Well, Troy Aikman goes against a Washington defense that's having all kinds of problems. Sure, they're good against the pass, but against the run, they can't stop anybody. They have to go out and sign Sean Gilbert, the defensive lineman. He was the star for this team. They need him back. Ken Harvey, the leader of the sacks last year, he had 10, 0 sacks so far this year. William Gaines, he's hobbling on crutches. I think this is the week that Troy Aikman gets his focus back. He solves his red zone problems. By that I mean they've been inside the 20 22 times to come away with 6 touchdown passes. That will change. Dallas will win.
Well, you think that Aikman's happy to go there? How about Emmitt Smith? He hasn't scored a touchdown on the run so far this year. He's going against a team that last week against Philadelphia rushed the ball, Nick, 50 times. That is a ton of rushes. They rushed for over 200 yards. So Emmitt's going to be happy to get there. He'll get his first rushing touchdown against the Skins. I like Dallas. Now, tell me something, Jerry, about this Redskins team.
Well, Lenny, you're talking about the problems that the Redskins are having on defense. What about the problems on offense? Last week, they can't run the ball. They can't protect the quarterback. They got 3 top offensive linemen that are injured. Ed Simmons, starting tackle, and Patton and Trey Johnson, both guards. I think that's why Gus Frerott's not looking real good.
No question about it. Terry Allen got stuffed last week against the Philadelphia Eagles. But this week, without Chad Hennings on that defensive line for the Cowboys, they're already without Leon Lett. Terry Allen will get the running game going again, but if Gus Frerotte has to throw against Kevin Smith and Deion Sanders, not going to happen. But I still like the Redskins at home.
You do? What about last week when the game's over? The game's all over, and Norv Turner and the players say the Eagles came to play. They came to play. Isn't everybody supposed to come to play? You only got 16 times to get it up and go play. They won't get it up to play again this time. I'm going with the Cowboys.
You do? Thank you very much. The Cowboys, they blew out the Steelers on opening day, but since then, Dallas has struggled a little bit offensively. Meanwhile, the Steelers have slashed their way back.
The Pittsburgh Steelers really didn't need helmets because the Baltimore Ravens were going to hand them their heads anyway. Early on, the rambunctious Ravens slapped the Steelers upside their heads and intercepted Cordell Stewart 3 times in the first half. The Ravens either knocked them silly or disdainfully stepped over them. As the helpless Steelers seemed to be content just to go along for the ride. Behind Vinny Testaverde, the Ravens build a 21-0 lead. Of the 3 touchdowns, the unquestioned highlight was the audition by Mammoth Eric Green for the next Summer Olympics. Rookie Will Blackwell spearheaded the Steelers' dramatic comeback.
Blackwell at the 3. And he fakes the end around, and he comes up over the 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Foot race to the 45. He's down to the 35. And there he goes, all the way for that Steeler touchdown.
The porous Steelers plugged the defensive dike long enough to allow Cordell Stewart to regain his sea legs. Legs that produced 2 touchdowns and an arm that tossed 3 more.
Lobson for the goal line. Touchdown Steelers!
And the Steelers, what can you say? It's almost quadruple yoy.
And quintuple yoy was Stewart's amazing transformation from quarterback to running back.
Cordell's running. He's still on his feet, open field. He's at the 40, 45, 50. There goes Cordell Stewart. Cordell Stewart passes him up, faking the end around.
You try to catch Slash, you may as well wait for the Queen Elizabeth to dock in your backyard.
And collapses in great celebration.
While the real Steelers finally stood up in Baltimore, Colts fans were asking, will the real Jim Harbaugh sign in, please? But as usual, Captain Comeback ended up flat on his back. An ineffective and injured Harbaugh was replaced by Paul Justin, but it mattered little as running back Adrian Morrell primed the Jets' 4th win. The Jets even used some inspired shenanigans to preserve victory.
Maybe take the safety. They got to go after him. He's running back, O'Donnell, and he throws the ball out of the end zone.
While the winless Colts walked the final mile, the Dolphins were granted a timely reprieve.
Miami has the Dolphins, the greatest football team. They move the ball from goal to goal like no one's ever seen. They're in the air, they're on the ground, they're always in control. And when we say Miami, we're talking Super Bowl, because we're the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins! Miami Dolphins #1.
We got to take it one snap at a time. When it's over, get the blackboard and eraser on, go to the next one. Let's play with our heart, man. Let's go.
The Dolphins' inability to run the football was pinpointed by their demanding fans.
2.2 yards to carry. Equal right there. Why are you handing off to Abdul-Jabbar with 2.2 yards to carry?
Jabbar offered the best response to his critics.
Kareem has a hole. He's at the 5. He's in. Wow, did that pop wide open. Oh, man.
Elvis will put it right on you. But sell the route hard, and you'll bite it. I mean, he's bitten us on the hitches, and they're coming up tight. So sell the route and then work out the field.
Sideline strategy was translated into touchdowns by chief receivers.
Wide open in the end zone. Has a touchdown.
Andre Rison and rookie Tony Gonzalez gave Kansas City a 14-7 lead.
For Gonzalez, dives for the catch of the touchdown. Kansas City.
That's a hell of a catch. That's a beautiful catch, baby. Good job. Hey, good protection, baby. Good protection. Y'all blocking your ass off. You're blocking your ass off.
Dan Marino responded to recent criticism with a vintage display of precision passing.
Firing deep down the middle, Troy Drake makes the catch at the 15. That was a monumental effort by Troy Drake.
Marino's sleight of hand dealt the Dolphins into a 14-all tie.
Dumps it off complete to Parmalee. Touchdown! That was blue ribbon play.
In the final quarter, Marino marched the Dolphins to the brink of victory. A victory that was cemented by place kicker Olindo Mare.
27 yards from the right hash mark. Snap is down. The field goal attempt is up, and it is good this time.
The Chiefs' 4-game win streak was snapped as Jimmy Johnson's Dolphins joined the Oakland Raiders as the only AFL teams to reach 300 wins. And didn't he look positively joyous? Coming up on HBO's Inside the NFL. The Buffalo Stampede on defense stopped Barry Sanders when it counted. And a look back at the only punter ever drafted in the first round, Ray Guy.
The Miami Dolphins traveled to the Meadowlands on Sunday to take on the 4-2 New York Jets. While the Jets have exceeded all expectations so far, the Dolphins have fallen short of some of their goals. We sent Andrea Joyce to Miami to find out why.
Jimmy Johnson has never been awed by legends. In Dallas, he replaced Tom Landry, winning 2 Super Bowls in 5 years. In Miami, he took over for Don Shula, the NFL's winningest coach. Never once daunted by the challenge.
I think the biggest thing is that you've got to have enough confidence in your own abilities that you can go into any situation. And more than anything else, I don't know that there's anything special about replacing great players or great coaches or following great coaches. But I think the biggest thing here is that I haven't been afraid to take that challenge.
And what a task it's been. After struggling to an 8-8 record last year, the Dolphins are now 3-2 entering Sunday's game against the Jets. Even though his squad has been decimated by injuries, true to form, Johnson has raised the stakes for 1997.
A year ago, I was happy being in Miami. But this year, it is different in that it's not satisfying enough just to be in Miami. In order for us to have success this year, we have to be in the playoffs, and I would want us to have success in the playoffs.
Jimmy Johnson has never been a hard man to read. In the book Shark Among Dolphins, he talks about his somewhat fearless style of coaching, asking the question, do you want to be safe and good or take chances and be great? Right now, Jimmy Johnson is prepared to take any chance to win. Even if it means talking about what no one wants to hear, the aging of future Hall of Famer Dan Marino. In this summer's book, Johnson talked realistically about going to back up Craig Erickson if Marino was not 100%. And then, when Marino struggled in the season opener against Indianapolis, Johnson addressed the topic again.
I was just being honest, and Dan and I have talked about it, and he understands. And, you know, it was just a question. It said, you know, had that crossed your mind? And I said, yeah, it crossed my mind, but, you know, I didn't do it. I didn't think it was the right thing to do. Next thing you know, it's headlines everywhere.
And headlines fuel speculation. What would happen if Marino struggled in the future?
Struggling is different than being physically unable to perform at your best. If physically he's not able to go at his best, then you do make a change. I said from day one, you know, Dan was our quarterback, our starting quarterback. He was going to be our starter. He'd never be released. He'd never be traded. And yet people don't listen. You know, they say, well, what if? I said, wait, understand what I just said. Never be released, never be traded. He's our starting quarterback.
While Dan Marino would not talk with HBO on camera, he silenced many critics with his performance Sunday against the Chiefs. Still, Miami has problems. 13 Dolphins have undergone surgery since training camp, and the running game is ranked last in the league.
I think we're going to have to get a lot better. We're going to have to bring in some more players. I look around the league, and I see 2 or 3 or 4 real good teams, and then I see about 26 that are all fighting for the same spot. So I don't think anything's impossible.
All these headaches for a man who didn't even need this job. A man who for 2 years had a very comfortable life away from coaching.
Don't remind me. Oh, no, there's no second thoughts for the simple reason. I don't know that I would have ever been at peace with myself had I not said yes, you know, to the Miami Dolphins. Had it been another club, I would have been fine with it. But I don't know that I ever could have lived with myself had I not accepted the challenge to come back and to give it another shot.
Johnson has called this his dream job, a job that will inevitably require him to make critical and potentially unpopular decisions. Decisions that will always reflect, first and foremost, Jimmy Johnson's commitment to winning.
Jimmy Johnson and the Dolphins able to defeat the Kansas City Chiefs last Sunday. Nick, you and I were on the field before the game talking to both Jimmy and Danny, but you know them better than I do. What's their relationship?
Well, I don't think Danny's a very happy camper, Lenny. I think he lost some respect for Jimmy when Jimmy was talking about putting him on the bench. Now, Danny's going to play his ass off because he's a very proud guy, but I'll be very surprised if Dan Marino is wearing a Dolphin uniform after this season.
I agree with you, assuming that the Dolphins don't make the playoffs for the 2nd straight year. Because for Jimmy Johnson, do you want to continue to lose not playing your style of football? This is a team that clearly cannot stop the run. They can't run the football. That's not the way Jimmy Johnson likes to play. But you've got to say Dan Marino probably played his best game of the season last week.
Well, I think Jimmy Johnson is like every other head coach in the National Football League. I don't think he's worrying about Marino. I don't think he's worrying about next year. All he's worrying about is trying to beat the Jets.
And he's got to go to the Meadowlands to do that, and the Jets are on a roll. They won 3 in a row. Both teams have 2 defeats, so it's very important, Nick, for both of these teams to win if they want to stay close to the Patriots in the AFC East.
Well, the way they're doing it, Lenny, is they're running the football. Adrian Morrell, the running back, 71 carries in the last 2 ball games. What I think he's going to do against the Dolphins is they're going to control the clock, give it to Morrell, keep it out of Marino's hands, and the Jets win going away.
I think the Jets are going to win for a different reason. I want to talk about field position, because what you want to do is you want the other team to travel a long way to score. You want to shorten that. Well, Bill Parcells has the weapons on the special teams. John Hall has 20 kickoffs into the end zone for touchbacks. Last year, the leader had 20 in 16 games. Okay, let's shorten the field for the Jets, and they've got Aaron Glenn back there, and he is the best in the National Football League in returning kickoffs.
You know, the Miami Dolphins are a football team that's trying to remake this offense a little bit. They've tried to run the football, cannot. Now they're working on at least trying to throw the football. Troy Drayton, Lamar Thomas has given Dan Marino a few more threats, taking a little pressure off of O.J. McDuffie, but I think it's too little too late. The Jets too balanced. I like New York.
Well, I look at this game as the Coaches Bowl. You look at Bill Parcells and you look at Jimmy Johnson. Where would these two teams be without these two guys being their head coach? I don't think either one of them would be having a good year. But the Jets' pass defense has improved with strong safety Victor Green and, of all people, Pepper Johnson getting an interception. They'll win it on defense.
Even the young guys like Pepper Johnson get into the act and do an outstanding job. All right, both the Jets and Dolphins gained ground in the AFC East on the Patriots, who had a showdown with the Broncos in Denver last Monday night.
Hey, isn't that... Yes, it's Broncos president Pat Bowlen. Monday night, Bowlen was on a Rocky Mountain high as Denver jumped to a 14-0 lead.
End zone pass to be intercepted. Intercepted, and for a touchdown goes John Mobley. Just what they did not want to happen has happened to start here in Denver.
Drew Bledsoe then brought his team within a touchdown. But that was their only touchdown as Drew was pounded all night long. Meanwhile, Broncos quarterback John Elway was hooking up with receiver Rod Smith for huge gains.
It's Elway straight back to throw. Here comes the rush. He looks, he fires long and deep near side, and it is caught by Smith, and a great catch down to the 2-yard line. What a marvelous catch by Rod Smith. One thing you're going to watch for in Elway always is the quarterback draw. Elway in a sneak. He is into the end zone. Touchdown.
Denver dominated and remained the NFL's only undefeated team at 6-0.
I'm always quoting Winston Churchill. My favorite Winston Churchill quote about a guy he doesn't like. It says, the guy's got all the virtues I don't like and none of the vices I admire.
Against the legendary Barry Sanders and the Lions, the Bills drew inspiration from their 72-year-old head coach and a proven winner, Marv Levy.
All right. Okay, Steve. Have a good one, pal. Great day for football, man. Okay, guys, where else would you rather be?
Somewhere else if you're Scott Mitchell, who never saw Bryce Pop's blindside strip that enabled offensive tackle Ray Roberts the chance to do his Barry Sanders impersonation. While no one can really duplicate Sanders, the Bills' Todd Collins did a pretty good job in making like Jim Kelly as he passed Buffalo to the early lead.
Collins wants to go long to Reed. He's down there, and it is caught for the touchdown. Andre Reed.
Great concentration, Andre. Great concentration. Way to go, kid.
Levy helped the Bills' special teams to focus on the little things.
Exactly what. But on that field goal, we got to get that snap butt because they're coming hard. If they force the punt, let's go after one.
Just before halftime, this careful planning paid off.
Well, I'm trying to say blue or blue safe in case they tried something because it's the last play of the half. They may figure, what do you got to lose? You know what I mean? Hey, Bruce, are we stampeding it? Stampede. Stampede. We're going to block this sucker.
Still waiting for the snap. There it is.
And the Bills got a block on it.
Ken Irvin's block led to a field goal and a 13-3 lead, allowing Levy to focus his attention on an interpretation of the rules.
The guy was all the way out of the pocket, running around, and then we get a call of holding. On 3rd and 24. What kind of senselessness is it? That is unconscionable. That's unconscionable.
I didn't get a look. He was the only guy that ruled on it.
That's unconscionable.
We just stopped the clock. Everybody else, when he stopped.
That's unconscionable. 3rd and 24, a call like that. 3rd and 24 to make a call like that. You guys you're just not in the game. You don't understand the game. All you understand are those nitpicking little interpretations affect the outcome of a game like that on 3rd and 24 and something totally meaningless.
In the second half, the Lions were the ones heating up.
Hey, you had that freedom from the first snap. That's what we talked about. You don't have to ask about, hey, this guy's not a real mobile guy. We want want to get after them, however we get after them. Play fast in your pass rush, okay?
Hey, the tide is turning. Let's go. Tide's turned. Let's go.
Let's see. 13-6 Buffalo. Mitchell steps up. Forced up in the pocket. Runs it in. Touchdown. How about Scott Mitchell? Scott Mitchell.
You're the man. Tied at 13, Buffalo got a badly needed wake-up call.
All right. Okay, we got to stop playing some football, man. We got to stop diddling and playing some football. Let's go. All right, we got to cover now.
In the final 2 minutes, Chris Moore's perfect punt pinned the Lions at the 1-yard line. The stage was now set for the Buffalo defense.
Let's go, guys. Let's go. Come on. Crank it hard. Make some big plays. Big play on defense.
2:17 to play. 13 all the score. Running right, Barry Sanders. And they bury him. And they bury him.
Great play. Great play.
It's a safety. Did he indicate safety? It's a safety. And they have taken the lead. 15 to 13.
One great play was followed by another as the Bills ran away with a 22-13 win.
Great job, fellas. Great job. You kept fighting even when they came back, and it's hard when somebody comes back on you and ties it up to do what you did and persist and win the game. And it took at the end of the game a great kicking play, great defensive series, and a great run. Offense, defense, kicking, all three departments.
Like Buffalo, Seattle received a strong team effort against the Tennessee Oilers. But it was 6 carries by backup running back Steve Broussard that made the difference.
Buster in the middle, 40-35. Steve at the 30, breaks the tackle.
Those 6 carries produced 138 yards.
5, touchdown, Steve Broussard. He goes all the way.
Broussard's 77-yard run was the second longest in Seahawks history and carried Seattle to a 16-13 win. While the Seahawks were taking care of business at home, the Jaguars were looking to extend their home winning streak to 9 games by tearing apart the Cincinnati Bengals. Mark Brunell was back to his old self, scrambling and passing for 3 touchdowns against the Bengals. Brunell wasn't the only quarterback on the run. Cincinnati's Jeff Blake ran for a career-high 75 yards and a touchdown. But in the fourth quarter, Jacksonville finally put the game away.
Waist high snap, Brunell turns, goes screen. There's Willie Jackson at 10. Willie at the 5. Willie an outside move, touchdown, Jacksonville.
The Bengals will try to regroup this week in Tennessee, while Tom Coughlin's Jaguars will attempt to extend their home winning streak against the Philadelphia Eagles. Coming up on HBO's Inside the NFL, the San Diego Chargers run through the Raiders to even their record. And a look back at one of the greatest Raiders of all, former Oakland punter Ray Guy.
Jacksonville is now 4-1. They have an interconference game this week. They'll be hosting the Philadelphia Eagles. And after that, they are on the road for 3 straight games. 2 of those stops will be Dallas and Pittsburgh. But that's in the future. I want to talk about this week's game, Jacksonville hosting Philadelphia.
Well, when you talk about the Eagles, you got to talk about Ricky Watters. Here's a guy, he's in trouble all the time. Mad at the offensive coordinator, quarterback throwing a drink at him. And guess what? The head coach is mad. All he says is, run me, give me the football, or we lose. I think he's right. But not this week. You look at Jacksonville, they got Mark Brunell back. Well, he's played 3 games. He couldn't escape. He couldn't run around. Now he's healthy. He'll get away and win the game.
You're ready to play.
Let's go.
You're
Let's
ready
go.
to do it. Here we go. Jacksonville, I like them as well in this football game because they've finally gotten back to what they do best. A season ago, they started off throwing the football all the time. Then in the playoffs, it was Natron Means. And now we're seeing not only Natron Means, but Jimmy Stewart as well, running the football, playing some power football. That's the reason I like Jacksonville.
You're talking about Leon Searcy, the offensive tackle of Jacksonville, says, I want to run the football, and they did. Mike Mamula, probably the best defensive lineman that the Eagles have. He has no sacks so far this year. He's going to go up against All-Pro Tony Baselli. He will not get a sack in this ballgame. This will free up Mark Brunell to go to Jimmy Smith. There's a matchup, Jimmy Smith against cornerback Troy Vincent. Smith will win, and the Jags will win.
I think the Jags will win as well. Take a look what Philadelphia has done on the road this year. They are 0-3. How about Jacksonville? The last 9 home games, they are perfect, 9-0. Plus, they're going to put some heat on Philadelphia's quarterback, Kevin Pritchett, last week. 3 sacks. I like Jacksonville. We have 2 more games to show you from last week, including another heartbreaking loss for the Arizona Cardinals.
Sunny Arizona seems like no place for Norsemen, but last Sunday the Vikings made themselves right at home.
Second 11, Brad Johnson cocks and throws. Touchdown, Glover. Andrew Glover, the tight end.
Cardinals quarterback Kent Graham was also airing it out.
Graham with all kinds of time throws the ball deep for Kent. He does. He's got it. He scores. And Kent Graham made that.
Arizona safety Tommy Bennett thought he had Chris Carter, but receiver Chris Walsh had other ideas.
Pumping, now fires it. Carter, touchdown, what a play. Carter at the back of the end zone.
Down 19-17 with time running out, Brad Johnson's pass to Andrew Glover set up Eddie Murray's game-winning field goal attempt.
Murray for the win. A 38-yard field goal try. Eddie Murray's kick is on the way, and it is good. Murray hits a field goal that puts the Vikings on top, 2019 with 10 seconds to play.
The Cardinals lost their 4th, all by a total of 11 points. Usually Raiders fans feel like king of the castle, but they had to feel rooked after Tim Brown made what seemed to be a spectacular touchdown grab. It was back to square one as the play was called back thanks to an illegal shift on Brown, and the Raiders could only muster one more offensive play of note.
He has time. Dumps it over the middle. Kaufman, good catch. First down 40. Midfield. Kaufman's good. One man trying to get him from behind. He angles on right. Touchdown. Napoleon Kaufman for 70 yards.
Part of Oakland's problem was assigning nobody to block number 55 linebacker Junior Seau.
The yard line. Second down and 6. Sack. The ball is loose. And San Diego's recover the football.
Offensively, Gary Brown ran over and through the Raiders' defense for 181 yards. Guard Troy Sinkowitz, number 65, and fullback Carwell Gardner, number 35, sealed a hole for Gary Brown's first touchdown since '94, which sealed the Raiders' 4th loss of the year.
The Raiders obviously dejected after that loss to San Diego, and joining us now on the program, our own Gary Myers. And Gary, speaking of dejection, Rick Mirer has to feel that way right now in Chicago. Comes over in the trade from Seattle, and his play has really put Dave Wannstedt in a tough spot.
It really has, Chris, because just last week, Wannstedt said he planned to start Rick Mirer for the rest of the season, and just 1 week later, he's forced to go back to Eric Kramer. Mirer started 3 games. Didn't get the Bears into the end zone once, was benched in the last 2 games. You know, Wannstedt was really in danger of losing the team if he didn't make this switch again. You know, the Bears are 0-6, but they are playing hard, and he can tell by the look in the players' eyes that he had to go back to Eric Kramer. You know, the big question in Chicago also is, what about Dave Wannstedt's job security? Before last season, he signed a 3-year extension. If they fire him after this year, they're going to owe him about $3 million. Wannstedt tells me he speaks every day with Bears president Mike McCaskey, and his job situation has never come up, and he's not concerned about it.
Tell me about the change with the New York Giants. Dave Brown out, Danny Kanell in now.
Well, on the surface, it might look like Danny Kanell is starting because Dave Brown suffered an injury. But Jim Fassel was on the verge of making this change anyhow. And what's really interesting here, Chris, is Fassel has said Dave Brown does not get his job back when he's healthy if Danny Kanell is playing well. This is very unusual in the NFL. It's kind of an unwritten rule that when you're hurt and then you're healthy, you get your job back, especially for quarterbacks. But this just proves the point about how close Fassel was to making this change.
You know, interesting matchup this week. Philadelphia against Jacksonville. Mark Brunell starting to play well. He was almost an Eagle, wasn't he?
He really was, and I spoke with Joe Banner, the Eagles vice president, this week, and they're still really hurting over the fact they didn't pull off this trade 2 years ago, that they're really second-guessing themselves for not being more aggressive because they had the first shot at trading for Mark Brunell. They actually worked out a deal with the Packers 2 years ago, but then could not work out a contract with Mark Brunell, so they called Ron Wolf, the Green Bay general manager, and said, we don't think we're going to get this done. 5 minutes later, Tom Coughlin calls from Jacksonville, says, we're interested in trading for Brunell. They worked out the deal, got the deal done. Philadelphia called Green back and said, forget about our previous conversation, we're ready to make this trade. He said, sorry, too late. The next year, Philadelphia winds up signing Brett Favre's other backup, Ty Detmer.
Well, the owners are going to get together next week, and they still have yet to resolve the situation in Cleveland. Will it be an existing franchise or an expansion team?
Chris, there's a very, very strong feeling among the league, to put an expansion team in Cleveland. They want to give Cleveland the opportunity to start over. They want local ownership there. And what this means, Chris, is that in 1999, there's a very good chance there's going to be 31 teams in the NFL, which means every week of the year, somebody will have a bye.
All right, Gary. Well, thanks. We'll see you next week.
Okay, Chris.
Well, you know, generally, I don't like to talk about punters on national television because, well, they're punters. But on this week's Where Are They Now, we feature a real football player, the Raiders punter, Ray Guy.
Dreams come true in unlikely places. For a 6-year-old Ray Guy, his hopes were launched from Thompson, Georgia, with his foot, a ball, and a challenging power line above his backyard.
One day I reached that plateau, I kicked it over that line, and you could hear me hollering all over the county. And the line right here is the one that I kicked it over, and once I achieved it, I knew I could do things, and I just kept going.
And so did the football. At Southern Mississippi, Ray put hang time into our vocabulary and inspired the Oakland Raiders to make history in 1973. They honored him as the first punter ever drafted in the first round.
I was more important than the offense and defense because I could control the field position.
Number 8 was so effective that one day against the Houston Oilers, he faced unusual charges from head coach Bum Phillips.
They took the ball back to Rice University and had it analyzed. So they thought they had helium in it. But that's a compliment to hear Bum say something like that.
In his 14 lofty seasons with the Raiders, compliments soared. Ray was heralded for 6-second hang time and coffin corner accuracy. The self-taught punter was 7-time All-Pro and earned 3 Super Bowl rings. However, his most famous moment is from the '76 Pro Bowl in the Orleans Superdome.
I happened to look at the yardage I was standing on, and I happened to look up, and I said, okay, I'm at the right angle. John Madden was on the sideline, and for some reason or other, John just said, he's going to hit it. It actually hit it at the top edge of the gondola. It was still climbing in. If I'd have been 1 or 2 yards back further, it would have went up on top of it.
Today, despite sharing his gift of toe through the Ray Guy Kicking Academy, transition from the NFL was difficult.
They come straight up through.
His life settled 7 years ago when Ray and his family moved back home to quiet Thompson. Like his dad before him, he now works in the wood business.
KDAT? CCA? I got a great job now, and I enjoy what I'm doing. You know, my dad was a contractor on the years that we were growing up, and we built a lot of the homes around here in my hometown.
Kill and dry.
Bottom first.
The 47-year-old dad hands down this passion to a 3rd generation, his son Ryan.
Yeah, there's a little gap down this, all right.
And Ray also instills his competitive spirit to him and Amber, his riding champion daughter.
The day of the horse show, we get to the show there and we get the horse ready and all this stuff. All of a sudden, she had that game face on, and you can't say a word to her.
There you go, good.
It's me coming out with them two. Then I realized, well, I did that, you know. And it can get irritating sometimes, but I like that. Don't get complacent with just what you're doing now. Always strive to go a little bit further.
And Ray Guy went the distance, gracefully setting the standard for all punters. Today he's back home to nurture the dreams of his kids and help them reach their own unexpected heights.
Ray Guy, what a great punter. The two best punters I've ever seen in the National Football League, Ray Guy of Oakland and Gerald Wilson of the Kansas City Chiefs. Ironically, they both went to the same college, Mississippi Southern. But Jerry, tell me about this guy named Ray.
Well, when I was coaching at Georgia Tech, I got sent over to his high school his senior year. When I went back to Georgia Tech, I said, this is not only the best punter I've ever seen, he's the best quarterback in the state of Georgia.
The Ray Guy was not only a punter, Lenny, he was a weapon. He was a factor in every single game we played against the Raiders.
He didn't get it. This guy named Ray. I threw that at him. Tell us about the website.
You know, this week we had over 10,000 people that got registered, and there was a single perfect 13-0 score. Wow. A young lady from Louisiana, Waynette Morgan, congratulations.
Congratulations. Evidently, we weren't there. But take a look at last week. Nick was almost perfect. Almost perfect.
I took a
Jerry
beating.
was, I took a little beating. For the season, still very close in a three-way race. Now, earlier in the show, we picked several games. Now it's time to pick the rest. Old teammates Dan Reeves and Mike Ditka meet in New Orleans. We all like the Jambalaya and the Saints. Carolina will start Steve Berline, but we like the #1 offense in the NFL to carry the Minnesota Vikings to a win at home. Green Bay will win at Soldier Field as the Bears and Eric Kramer will remain winless. St. Louis will travel to San Francisco. We all like the 49ers. Why not? They've beaten them 14 times in a row. Indianapolis will suffer another loss and go 0-6 as they travel to Pittsburgh. Now for the rest of the games in more detail. Nick, we'll start with you. We've got Buffalo at New England. The Patriots have beaten the Bills 4 of the last 5 times they played.
Well, the offensive line of the Patriots, they sort of took a night off against the Denver Broncos. But I think this is the week that they finally wake up, because if they don't, Bledsoe will not finish the ball game. They will wake up. Terry Glenn will wake up. He's been in a coma.
Yeah.
I like the Patriots.
But you got to look at the Buffalo Bills offensive tackles. Lucci and Fina, they are struggling. And how they're helping them in pass protection, all these tight ends in motion are staying in so they can double up on the defensive ends, making the passing game much too conservative. Todd Collins is trying not to lose the game rather than win it. New England talent wins the game.
I agree with the New England Patriots. Curtis Martineau has to get back on track. This week, Chris Spielman will be sitting there waiting for him, but I don't think Buffalo has enough offensive weapons to beat the Patriots up there. New England.
I look at the big matchup, the Bills defensive lineman Bruce Smith going against Bruce Armstrong of the Pats. Armstrong has won those contests in the past. He'll do it again. I also like New England. Once again, we've got Cincinnati at Tennessee. And, folks, if you happen to be in the Memphis area, still plenty of seats available. Jerry, who do you like in this one?
Nobody. I don't like either one of these teams. These are the two biggest disappointments in football. I go back to last year. Cincinnati looks like they're going to be a good football team. Bruce Cosley calls in the coaching staff and says, I'm not bringing you back. Go find a job. I'm hiring my own guys. He better go get last year's coaching staff. I'm going with Tennessee, and I don't think any of them can play.
Well, Dick LeBeau did make a few changes last week. They went to the 4-man front, 4 big defensive linemen to try and stop the run. It still didn't help. This week they have Eddie George. I don't think they have a chance to stop him. I like Tennessee.
You know, Tennessee,
you go.
No, Tennessee is really bad. But Cincinnati is really worse. I mean, when you stop to think about it, they're 30th in the league in stopping the run. And like you said, Eddie George, one of the best. How could you pick against Tennessee? I like Tennessee.
As I was saying before I was rudely interrupted, you know, Cincinnati is consistent. Unfortunately, they are 27th in scoring. They're 27th in points allowed. Plus, Blake was sacked 5 times last week. I also like Tennessee. Detroit at Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay has already beaten Detroit in Detroit, so on Sunday they aim for a sweep of the Lions.
You know, I was really impressed with Tampa Bay in that loss to Green Bay last week. Physically, I thought they dominated both sides of the ball. On 3rd down, they were only 2 for 13, the Packers were, against that defense. They'll get back on the right track. I like Tampa.
You know, Barry Sanders, he loves the run on the artificial surface. Unfortunately, Tampa Bay has grass. The last time these two teams played, they held Barry Sanders to 20 yards rushing. Unheard of. Warren Sapp's healthy. I like the Bucs.
Well, what if you were Scott Mitchell and you're playing for the Lions? 2 words. Look out.
Look out.
Look out.
Look out.
They lost the only tackle they have, Ray Roberts. Ray Roberts tore his knee when he's chasing a fumble laying on the ground. Now they take the right tackle, move him to the left. Larry Tharp moves it. Nobody can play tackle. I'm taking Tampa Bay.
Look out.
Look out.
I like Tampa Bay, too. You know, the Lions are 22nd in rushing defense. and Tampa Bay is number 4 in rushing offense. I like Tampa Bay. All right, we've got the Giants at Arizona. Danny Kanell will be quarterback for the Giants, his first start in the National Football League.
I'll tell you one thing, that Giants secondary is for real. You got Sam Garnes, you got Flippy Sparks, Tito Wooten, and Jason Sehorn. These guys are the future of the Giants. They're playing great. But going to Arizona, the Heat, and I think Kent Graham has a big game against them. I like Arizona.
Well, you got to say the Cardinals are not a 1-4 team, but their kicker's 1-4. And this is the same club that cut Greg Davis, who kicked 6 field goals for San Diego last week. But your guy, the running back, Leland McElroy, got your pep talk, had a great game last week, and he's going to be the difference and win for Arizona.
You know, the Giants offensively, they struggle against average defenses. Well, this Arizona defense is very good. Eric Swan, Eric Hill, Simeon Rice, Aeneas Williams, a very good defensive team. I like Arizona.
Danny Kanell making his first start in the National Football League, right?
Right.
He better hope that Eric Swan has mouthwashed his breath, because he's going to be in his face all day long. He's had 5 sacks. He'll get some more in this one. I like Arizona. Hey, that's our show for this week. Remember, Inside the NFL premieres each Thursday evening at 11 p.m. If you miss any part of it, you can catch it again on Fridays at 7 p.m. and Saturdays at 11 a.m. And remember to check out our popular website at HBO.com and make your picks against us each week. Join us next week from the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado, as Inside the NFL goes on the road to visit the only remaining undefeated team in the National Football League, the Denver Broncos. So for Nick, Chris, and Jerry, I'm Len Dawson, and thanks for watching the show the pros watch, Inside the NFL. Fight fans, you are in for a treat this Saturday night. Boxing After Dark gives you a late-night replay of last week's stunning fight between Lennox Lewis and Andrew Galata. Also, check out the classic slugfest between Arturo Gatti and Gabriel Ruelas. That's this Saturday at 11 p.m.
And we got to run the ball a little better, and we got to,
Someone's got to break a tackle and make a long run. I mean, someone's got. That's.
Because they will give up the big plays.
Celebrating 25 years as the network of champions. This has been a presentation of HBO Sports. There's a place for the